My guest this episode has had an illustrious career in the live music industry. From humble beginnings in County Waterford to running one of the best known music venues in the entire world, London's the Mean Fiddler. If you don't know his name, you'll know his work. Reading and Leeds festivals, Benicassim, and of course the mighty Glastonbury at one stage too. This is Vince Power. You've said in the past, Vince, that money was never everything to you. And it was never your motivation. As a promoter who's had it all, lost it all, and is on the path with your latest venture to hopefully regaining it, what is it that lights that fire in you?
I don't know really. I think it's just in my makeup really. It's what I am. I want to do things all the time. I always want to get up in the morning and get out. And you know, I had the opportunity to get out, and I did get out for about 2 weeks, and then I just came back in again. But yeah, I mean, money was never been more of an issue when I had it, so it didn't when I didn't have it. So
I saw you mention before once in an interview that the want to keep on moving is almost based on insecurities, that enough is never enough, and you kind of want to add more to it.
I think that's how I felt. I felt like it's doing stuff. Once you're doing stuff, and it fills up your mind. But it's a sort of, it's probably a gross insecurity. That's why I say it is like you're never secure enough to stop.
You came from very humble beginnings, of course. A cottage in Kilmacthomas, County Waterford. Fourth of 11 children, 4 of whom sadly died at childbirth. When you got on that boat in your mid-teens, were you the first of the family to make that trek across the sea?
The very first, yes. Yeah, my mother put me on the train in Kilmacthomas to Waterford, and then I caught the boat to I caught the train to Rosslare, and then the boat to Fishguard. And my aunt met me in Paddington. And she lived in Hemel Hempstead with her husband, which was he was a Barry from Kill, and that's where I came to. That was I left the technical school in Dungarvan. I was there for a couple of years, I think it was. Maybe it could be more, but and then I just went. I didn't. My mother got me. I think my mother got me this scholarship in Galway to train to be an artificial inseminator.
A very different path than the one you did take.
I actually never would like to say to my mother, but I had to say no on this occasion, that I really didn't want to be a qualified artificial inseminator.
What was the lure that England held for you over being an artificial insemination specialist?
It was more of a thing to get out rather than the lure. I didn't know what it was. I mean, all I saw was that what any young Irish person would have seen. Now, we didn't have television and stuff, but I would have seen magazines and stuff, and the streets of, it's been said before, the streets are paved with gold and all this business. But I had expectations that the buildings were bigger and the place was brighter. But when the train pulled into Paddington, I felt that this place looks awful, because the train was slow coming in, and there was all these buildings, backs of houses with clotheslines and stuff and hanging around. I thought, well, is this Paddington? I remember the conductor saying we're coming into Paddington, and that was after many hours. I don't know, it's probably 7 or 8 hours on the train, and coming from Fishguard.
What year was this exactly, would we be talking? Would this be in the middle of the swinging 60s?
63.
Okay. And was London swinging as you expected it to be?
Not really. At the time it wasn't, because I went straight to Hemel Hempstead in Hertfordshire, because that's where my aunt lived, and my uncle, and my uncle's wife, which I called my aunt, they lived in Hemel Hempstead, and they were building the motorway then. That was the first motorway. They weren't building it, but lots of Irish went to Hemel Hempstead. It was a new town. It was off the M1, which was just being built. So my uncle had 2 houses, and he had boarding lodgings and stuff. His name was Barry. He's left my mother. We were all from Kill, and near Kilmacthomas. Willie Barry. Willie Barry. So I mean, I wasn't really. My aunt got me a job very quick. She got me a job in Woolworths. I was a trainee floor walker, whatever it's called. Where it means you had 2 jobs. You make sure that all the actual places were stocked up with the stuff that was selling, and to make sure you're watching pickpockets. So you have to tell the security or whatever, tell the manager when you. I didn't like it really. I tried to stay there. I didn't stay there for long, maybe 3 months. I can't remember exactly how long, but I think I didn't fit in at all. I didn't feel that. I felt, it was very kind of. I don't know what the word for the prejudice. I mean, the people were very prejudiced. It was like,
of course, this would have been like no blacks, no dogs, no Irish, that kind of.
Very much so, and coming in with an accent and an Irish accent, it was like, and coming not. So I was always surprised because I didn't know I didn't know what it was to be prejudiced or I didn't know what it was to be racist or sexist or whatever. I just come straight from Ballashunach and Kilmacthomas, so I didn't have any. I didn't know that the way people of colour were treated. You know, the Irish were treated like people of colour. They're different, and I remember the departmental manager calling me and saying, he was always calling me Paddy, and I said, my name is Vince. So in the end, he never stopped calling me Paddy, but I sort of then didn't answer him. So he would be shouting at me down the aisle, and I would pretend I didn't hear him. And then he got really angry. He'd have to come all the way down. And I said, "Oh, sorry, I didn't realise who you were calling," and all that. So I was aware at the time, even though I was young.
Woolworths wasn't the only job. You also worked in McVitie's and also Heinz, I believe. Yeah,
Heinz, McVitie's. I did after Woolworths. Then I did all these different jobs. I came down to London, and a chap called Tom O'Brien, which was from Ballashunach, Ballahussa. He came over, so we got a room together, and we in Kilburn. I think the first one was in Kilburn, and in a basement. It was good. It was a big old house, music house. Lots of West Indians and Africans, and their great music, and their music that I was exposed to, like the 60s music and reggae and stuff. And that was great. I remember like being good. But I was working in McVitie's and Wall's ice cream, and I got sacked from Wall's ice cream for falling asleep. Night shift. I think the chuck ices were going into the boxes without wrappers.
I believe it was Demolition and abandoned furniture that kind of gave you your first massive success in business.
Well, I'd been through many jobs in a short time, and I didn't realise that, I did then realise that I wasn't actually made to work for people. So when I went onto this demolition site, there was an Irish contractor, a man from Kerry, very nice man. He took me under his wing, and I started taking slates off roofs. You know, there was a big demolition thing going on in London that time, and they just pulling down houses and putting up this dreadful, what turned out to be ghettos. Everybody wanted it, but so a lot of people left stuff in the houses, and I kept thinking, well, this is ridiculous. I mean, I actually got the stuff free, and then I bought an old van, and I started like advertising it in shop windows, newsagent windows, like, you know, chairs for sale, table for sale. And then I got the hang of it, and I started, as it went, I actually educated myself. I bought books about furniture and different periods of furniture and all that. And in the end, I got myself a little shop in the Harrow Road, and I got a van, I got a license, and I started buying and selling. I remember paying £25 a week for the shop. And I was happy. I was like, I could, I was my own boss then. I used to have the yellow pages. I'd have adverts in there. For, like, when you look at the yellow pages, you'd think I was a huge dealer. Big. The pages were very big, and I was an expert in everything. But I found out if I didn't know, I could sell the call on to somebody else. So I did quite well. And I had a stroke of luck where I found a painting in Kenton, and that was, to make a long story short, I took it into Sotheby's because I put it in the shop window. My old shop window. There was no. I said to George, the old boy who was working for me, I said, George, don't sell it. Just see what you can get. See what they offer for it. So by the time I came back, they'd offered something £300, which was a huge amount of money then. I think it cost me a tenner. So I took it into Sotheby's, and they said, "Oh, Mr. Power, you've got something there. I think because I used to go in there quite often thinking I'm going to find a Constable or a Turner or something like that, and." Then they came out after 15 minutes, and they said, well, you've got a Dutch master here. It's like, we think we can sell it for $7,500. And
it had originally cost a tenner, you think?
Yes, that was my break. That was the biggest amount of money I've ever had, I ever will have. In my mind then, but
Went from one furniture shop into a chain, I believe. How many did you have?
The chain started quite, it kind of mimics The music business kind of mimics what happened in the furniture business. I was never happy with one. So then out of that money, I got a shop in Cricklewood, which was a better area and busier, and I made some money there, and I got another shop in Kilburn, and then I got lots of shops around different Shepherd's Bush and places, and eventually because I couldn't get enough second-hand furniture, I just started buying new furniture from mail order catalogues, people who were delivering furniture through mail order houses, and that was very successful. Then I decided I would get pop-up shops from shops that were empty. So there was times when I had sometimes I would have 30 shops or 20 shops.
Wow.
So I spend my time going around just getting them stocked up, going up to places like Liverpool, to the mail order houses, picking out the stuff, getting it delivered. And that worked really well because I used to use, in those days, a big catalogue. I used to use a catalogue to show people what the real price was. Like, you buy this on the catalogue and it costs you 600 quid and I will sell it to you for £200. Or I don't know exactly if that's the amount, but it was greatly reduced. So we used to have a great time selling stuff. And I found that quite easy, really, because there was endless supply. It's a bit like, it was just another version of Amazon today, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Things that are delivered, you can send them back. But they never went back out of the warehouse. They would never send out stuff that was already sent out before because they never risked being damaged or whatever. So everything that was on 14 days trial, it came back in, and then they would sell it to people like me.
So it was kind of like for returns, it was kind of like B-grade stock to an extent.
Yeah, well, to just some of it's brand new, they just didn't let the colour. Mm-hmm. Sometimes there was a little nick on something, you know, but I used to always put out 3 only, and then they would have another 50 downstairs in the basement. So you'd get a queue outside, and people would come, and they'd be very cheap, about £100 or £60 for a 3-piece suite.
You didn't really become involved in the live music scene until 1982. So where originally did the love of music come from with you?
Well, I always had a love of music. I mean, it actually comes from my mother's side, the Barrys. John Barry, my grandfather, he came from Kill. He was a songwriter. He wrote lots of songs. My grandmother used to always accuse him of not working. He didn't work a day in his life, but he considered writing songs and singing songs and doing stuff like that as work. He was a great artist as well. He would paint people's walls and stuff, and he worked in Kill we worked with all the farmers and doing stuff around the houses, but he didn't have a regular job. It's a bit like myself, really. But so the music was, he would play the fiddle when we were kids, but he would never let us see him play it. He would play it in the back room. I remember sitting outside the door of his bedroom in Kill, and he would play the fiddle, but he wouldn't let you in. So you'd have to just put your ear to the door. And he was eccentric, to say the least, I think. But that's what I remember of him. But I guess it just my earliest would be the 60s, early 60s, 50s, when the show band scene was around. And Waterford had quite a few show bands. And with a friend of mine, which I went to school with in Dungarvan, in the tech, his name was Shemi O'Brien. He started a band, and I started helping them then to move the gear around. This was before I came to England. So I loved music then. And as I got money, I just bought albums, and then I started going to Nashville just to hang out there. And I really liked the music. It was sort of old country music. It wouldn't have been like the new country music today. It was a bit more honky-tonk. And I was back and forward to Nashville. I was buying albums and stuff, and I decided then one night in there, I was drinking Budweiser, which never had Budweiser in the UK. I decided that's it. That would be 81 it would have been when I decided that's it, I'm going to. So I took photographs of this place I was in. It was a spit and sawdust, just like the Mean Fiddler, really. I mean, because that's what I copied it from. I copied it from this place in Nashville. You had bricks and sawdust on the floor, and people were happy drinking. The beer was cold. You couldn't get cold beer in those days. You'd get a pint of beer, but it was sort of lukewarm. But like Budweiser, frozen cold, long neck. That was what was nice. And so, I just, that's it. I was in my head. So I come back, and I said to a friend of mine, who's an architect, an Irish architect, I said, I want to create this. I showed him all the pictures, and he said, you better find a place. So I found a place in Harlesden, which was a bit naive, but it was old. It was an old drinking club, but it had been a cinema before, and I tried to buy that. I tried to buy it, but it didn't have a license. It was a club, so I tried to get a license. Anyway, eventually I got it. I bought it. I had some money. I bought the freehold and opened it. And we opened it on the 9th of December 82. And then it was a copy of a copy of what I saw in Nashville. It was country music. It was what I liked. But I think they're a Scottish country band. I can't remember the first night, but anyway, it was like okay for the first year. I brought stuff in that was like a bit obscure in Harlesden. I don't know if you know Harlesden, but it was the most unlikely place to see a honky tonk. So it sort of survived on all the American Air Force bases, which we would get Texans, people from different places in Air Force bases around Oxford. They would come in on one Saturday night in every month. That was really good. It was a bit weird in Harlesden. You got 6'6" blokes with big hats on. That was it lasted for a while, and then it got into, I had to sort of start thinking, well, this is not a hobby anymore. I was selling I sold most of the furniture business, and I was funding it. For the first year, it was a disaster. So we got to 83, 84, I started to change. 85, we got better, and then bands like the Pogues and a huge amount of bands came along, like the Pixies. And then it took off, because then I thought, okay, I've got to make a business of this now. It's costing a lot of money. So I remember the bank manager telling me, "You had a good business, Vincent. Why didn't you actually just stick to what you're doing?" He was a nice man, but I used to remind, every time I went to some do or something after, I said, "Maurice, do you remember when you told me that I should stick to what I knew?" And that's when the Mean Fiddler was really doing well.
Just going back to when the Mean Fiddler opened, the name was in honour of your grandfather.
The same grandfather, the man that wouldn't let us see him playing the fiddle. And we'd finished the job about 2 weeks before the place opened, and we didn't have a name. So I used to pay all the builders and stuff in the pub in Kilburn, meet them all and pay them on a Friday night. And they said, Nace, which was the foreman there, he was a man from Dundalk, he said to me, "Vince, you haven't got a name still." And I said, well, we all started talking about names for about 10 minutes. And I said, well, why don't we just call it, at the end I said, why don't we just call it the Mean Fiddler? And that's what we did. And, the first year, people said, "Why don't you change the name, Vince?" And I used to say, "Why don't you, whatever, off?" And, the Mean Fiddler now, when I go to New York, I see a place called the Mean Fiddler, which is not like a live music place, but the Mean Fiddler is named, I think there's 4 Mean Fiddlers in Australia, there's a couple in New York, there's one in New Zealand, because of that time, in the sort of late 80s, a lot of Irish, a lot of Australians, it became very famous as an Irish place, but it had sort of a lot of other acts as well. We've done, we at that time, I didn't have there was no sort of restrictions about what I would put on. We had every type of band, and people seemed to like it. I mean, Johnny Cash came there very early in the 80s. Roy Orbison played there in 1987. We had everybody there. Paul McCartney played it twice. All the Irish bands played it, from Christy Moore to Elvis Costello, Van Morrison. It was just like, and then we were doing so well, I got another place, which was the second place, was a place called the Powerhouse. It was in Islington. That did well. I think Stone Roses opened it. In the right order, I think the Powerhouse, and then the next one would have been Subterranea, which I opened in 89, which was the same year we started to do Reading. Subterranea opened with a band called the Butthole Surfers, which they definitely took the cobwebs out of the place. The first night they busted. I didn't realize, but they blew up the whole system because they were so loud. And it didn't matter how loud they were; it was just the fact that the system couldn't. So that was a learning curve. I had to get a new PA system the following weekend. But that was the weekend of Reading, which was, when you think about it, it's hilarious to actually try and do. I'd never done a festival before, and we were doing Reading, which was 3 nights, and we were also opening this venue. So we had a bill of Reading, which was the headliners was New Order. The Pogues, I think, were there, and Wonder Stuff was the other headliner. We did really well that weekend. I mean, it was all very naive again when you look back on it, but we got it right. Second, third year, it looked. I mean, so everybody played Reading. We did it for 89 to 2000, and can't remember actually, but it was like many years.
Tell me this, you've name-checked the Pogues there a number of times, playing in both the Mean Fiddler and at Reading. Shane is obviously one of your most loyal acts that you continue to book. You've even got him for the Fesh this year in Liverpool. How did you come about to meet Shane and the lads? And any kind of outstanding memories of those days?
Well, it was very, very memorable because it was on a Friday night. The Pogues came and played the Mean Fiddler, and it was just a time when the change was coming. It was going from being a country night to being sort of where different genres of music were played. And I remember we still had our resident country DJ, and he actually resigned publicly when the Pogues came, and we'd sold out, and the place was buzzing, and it was a different feeling there. And the Pogues had sound checked, and he actually put up the mic, and he just made an announcement, and everybody cheered. He said, "I'm leaving this. This is not country anymore. This doesn't need my respect and attention anymore." So it was a big cheer. And that was the beginning of the new era. So that was on a Friday night, and everything did well. The bars did well. I think the money I gave the Pogues then, they weren't famous then, but they had a big following in Northwest London. I think it was £25.
Wow,
which was not a lot of money then. I mean, not a lot of money then, not a lot of money now. So, and that was fantastic, and that was the first time I met Shane. And then, I did the following year after Reading. Then I realised I can do this festival now. I know we changed the festival a lot.
How did you become involved with the Reading Festival?
It went broke. So Harold Pendleton, which is not around any longer, he had Reading Festival from its existence, but he'd lost interest in it, and it was going down. It was going down the hill, and it became very much a festival for. It just lost its way, really. There was nobody interested in it, and he just went broke in the end. Well, he didn't personally go broke, but the festival went broke. So he tried several other promoters, but nobody was interested. And I remember I had a very good booker called David Phillips, which was a real good music man. He said, we can do this. And I said, yeah, we can do it. So we went up and saw him, and we done a deal with him. And I took it over. And then I went. So now I've got the festival, I got no act. So about 6 months before the event. So in those days as well, you didn't put shows on a year in advance. I remember now everything goes up a year in advance, but we were 6 months into it. And I went, somebody said that New Order might come out. So I got hold of Rob from New Order, with the manager. And he said, where are you? And I said, I'm in London. He said, well, come and see us. And I went to Manchester, and I went to his house, and New Order were there. And they were on the table. He said, what makes you think you can do a festival, Reading Festival? I said, well, I've got the festival, and I've got money to offer. He said, how much will you pay? And I said, I will pay you $100,000 to headline it. They hadn't been out. They hadn't been out for quite a while. So it would have been a big plus if I had got them, but I did get them. But I knew that if I get them, then it would be easier to book it, because the other agents would say, well, who have you got? So I got them after a lot of chatting around the table, and I came back on the train, and I started calling agents, and they said, who have you got? And I said, as I said, I've got New Order. And they said, well, have you? I said, yeah. So I confirmed it, and then that's how Reading started. It was easy then to put acts around New Order. So the next act, the Wonder Stuff were big in those days. So I got the Wonder Stuff, and I got the Pogues, and the Pogues played it, and they were headlining. And in those days, Mary Coughlin was big. I remember she was fifth on the bill on the main stage. Really, so she's my friend. She was and I can't remember the other acts, but there was a whole. We had this multiple stage thing. We changed the whole thing. We did multiple changeovers. We did quick changeovers, so rolling rises. Brought in all that thing into live festivals, which are quite normal now. But Reading Festival was the one to have was the first festival to have things like quick 15-minute changeovers and multiple stages.
Given the festival lineups can be so far-reaching, you mentioned you had some help there. What would you base your booking policy on? Because nowadays it's all social media and streams. Back then, was it purely sales and media coverage, or did some personal taste play a role in it as well? Oh, I like that band, I know they're good, so I'll book them.
Well, I had by that time we had a big staff. We had a young crowd around us. So I didn't know everything, but I was the one that made this final decision because it was my responsibility. But I think the way it was looked at then, there was still the facts were there, the stats were there, like what the band doing, how much you can find out by, those Melody Maker, NME, Sounds, all those magazines you go through. You'd know what the album sales were, you'd know what the vinyl was, you'd know the same, but it's much more instant now. So it's the same. Nothing has changed apart from it's a better system now. I think it's like easier and better to get to reach anything. So we would know, and we would have discussions around, and we'd decide, okay, we're going to go for this one. And then by that time, once we got into the third and fourth year, it became sort of, you would then consider successful. So you then had another issue of like agents trying to make you decide to take their act. And then you'd have to say, no, yeah, we like this. So you have to keep the independence. So I think that went up to 2092 when 93, I lost the festival because Harold Pendleton decided then that he wanted to go back on the deal. So we had a big battle about that. And so he got the festival back for 1 year. And I got it back again by pure coincidence on 93, which was my happiest day of my life. I still remember the day it was the year that we booked Nirvana, but we never actually ran it because he kicked us out. And I took his word for it. I hadn't actually put my name onto the lease of the land. And we had an agreement, but however, I actually started then a festival called the Phoenix. And that's how the Phoenix came. That means rising from the ashes again. So, it was a huge determination and anger there to get on and do it. And I did the Phoenix. It was fantastic, really. I mean, the Phoenix was a great festival.
I believe it ran into some issues in its first year, that there were problems at the gate and in the campsites. There
was problems everywhere. We were out in a really nice site, Shakespeare. It ran in between New Age travellers and it was crazy. It was absolutely crazy. But that was 85 to 84, 85, but 86 was a great year. I remember 86, I thought it'd come to this fruition. It was great. It was really, we had Bowie, we had Neil Young, and we had Underworld, and we had 7 stages. I mean, we had a circus on there, the Chinese state circus. I remember we had everything there. It was a massive festival. And we still had Reading back.
We had a grand old time.
Yeah, I know. But also then we had lots of different venues as well. We were a big organisation then. We had the Extreme Sports Festival. I don't know what year that was, but I was going through tonight to sort of look at the things that, and when you look back on it, it's not, I think, well, God, I'd forgotten I did that. Mm-hmm. And it's like...
Extreme sports in the middle of the 90s. You were very much ahead of your time, sir.
Well, just buying stuff, it's just people said, look, you can get hold of this festival, and there was a young crowd of people doing it, and it looked very good, and said, yeah, this looks good. And it's a music and sports together. And that was down the country near Wales somewhere. We ran that for 3 years and sold it to somebody. I didn't keep that. We
just spoke about the Phoenix there and the troubles it experienced in its first year. That didn't deter you at all from trying it again for another go round?
No. That was a horrendous period when it comes to when you hear it's a bit like a war when you had all this steel fencing all the way around, and then when you hear hundreds of people banging on the fence when they're getting in, and the police won't give you a hand, and you're just holding out there. It's like it is. You think, well, but we had good people around, good staff, and we had Melvin Ben was the main man there. He was like the main man who was looking after the sites, and he was a Mean Fiddler partner then in those days. So he did well. He did well with looking after him, dealing with the police. But the police weren't always interested unless there was some serious stuff going on. And when you have a crowd like that, it's very hard to move them. So the place was Stratford on Avon. The roads were chaos. I remember leaving the site at 6 in the morning, and people had abandoned their cars. They couldn't get past because mothers coming back from school that previous afternoon had left their cars on the side road, and because they couldn't actually get past, because the new age travellers had come all the way from Cornwall and blocked the road because I wouldn't let them in. And the police said to me, if you don't let me in, I'll arrest you. Well, you got to arrest me, he said, because I can't let them in, because if you let them in, there's going to be worse trouble inside. So we had a standoff until like 4 in the morning, but then the police helicopters came, big vehicles, shifting vehicles, came to shift vehicles, and it was chaos. Eventually, early in the morning, the whole thing was, the new age travellers actually were quite clever, because when they saw that their vehicles were definitely going to be confiscated, taken away, confiscated, yeah. They just got into them and drove them off, because they'd well in use, they were well experienced. So, but the road was littered with rubbish and stuff. I remember that clearly. That, well, going home at 6 in the morning, getting into bed in the hotel and coming back out again at 11.
That same year was the year you brought it on home, another festival which suffered greatly due to lack of ticket sales, this time the Fleadh in the not too distant Tramore here in County Waterford. The lineup in hindsight was amazing. Bob Dylan, Ray Charles, yeah. Christy Moore. Why didn't it work?
Well, I did two reasons, really. It was, we can find plenty of reasons, and the actual honest reason is I don't really know, but I can have a go at answering your question. I think it didn't work because it was just that if you look at the roads now in Ireland, I don't think many people could come from Dublin. We just didn't have the infrastructure for such a big festival. It was huge, and it was a huge cost, and it just, I remember in those days in '93. Well, if you got behind a milk lorry going from Waterford to Dublin or whatever, you'd take you 4 to 5 hours to get to Dublin. It just didn't have the infrastructure, and it also, I don't think it had. Here was somebody new coming in, even though I was from here. I think something in my head that was trying to prove to somebody somewhere that I can do this at home, and look what I've done. But of course I did, and I did it. It was a great festival, which was a financial disaster.
To the tune of £1 million, I believe.
Probably plus. I mean, I always called it $1 million, but it was I had a company with me then, there was partners, and it called the Workers' Beer Company. They were a sort of union-based outfit, good outfit of people. So they were partners, and they sort of took an instant dislike to me because they'd never seen so much losses. I remember going back on the Aer Lingus flight and thinking, okay, now I'm in serious trouble because there's a big hole to fill here. And I thought, what shall I do? So I forward sold ticket sales to Ticketmaster, it was called then, Ticketmaster, and they gave me an advance of something like 2 million. So we were fine again. But then I was tied into them for some years. And because we sold a lot of beer in the venues, we could always get money from breweries like Carlsberg, and we had a lot of stuff, like we had lots of places, and we could always get cash flow, and we started going again. But it was a lesson. I don't know if I learned it, but it was a lesson.
I believe at that Fleadh there's a fantastic Bob Dylan story involving some Waterford crystal.
Yes, yeah, there is actually. There was the Waterford Appreciation Society, which they let me know what they were, and they were like men, and would be Bob's age, whatever age Bob was in his 50s or whatever. They said to me, look, they meet up every month to just talk about Bob and play the music, and I don't know if they've probably seen him somewhere else, but they've never definitely seen him in Waterford. Probably never again see him in Waterford.
Well, he'll be in Kilkenny soon enough, so that's close enough for them.
Get him to come over. They said to me, we've got this piece of glass and we want to make a presentation to him. And so I said, he's not that kind of bloke, he won't do it. And then they kept on saying to me, look, come on, we've been here. But they see it from a different point. Look, we're big fans of his. He didn't ask him to be fans, but of course, I guess the artist owes something to the client, or whatever you call him, the fan. Eventually, I got Jeff Kramer, which is the manager. I said, Jeff, they just want to give it. It'll take 2 seconds. He eventually agreed, and they're all lined up they're coming out of his dressing room. They were lined up there, and there's probably 12 of them, and he walked out, and the principal chairman of the association or whatever presented him. He said, Bob, thank you so much for everything. He said, thank you, and walked away. And they said, is that it to me? I said, I'm afraid so. He just closed the door again. He was like about 2 meters away from the door of the porter cabin. And they were just, they for seconds, they just stopped. They didn't move. They just, well, he's not going to come out again. You better wait to see him on the stage.
Elusive as ever. This stage now, we're kind of more or less into the mid-90s. How many festivals and venues did you have under your control at that stage, would you estimate?
I think we had 27 venues. We had, I bought venues then, and I had restaurants as well. At one time I counted between pizza places, and I bought a place from Giorgio Locatelli, which is a very famous chef, a friend of mine. We bought a pizza place in Wardour Street, which was fantastic. It made me fatter than I was. I don't know, but then I sold that as well. And then I got into gay bars. I started GAY bars. There was a GAY about the Astoria, which was where U2 played, and the Rolling Stones, they played it whilst I did own it. So it was nice. It was good. To answer your question, I had 7 restaurants, 27 venues, and six festivals.
Wow.
So at any one time, maybe 6 to 8, but we started Tribal Gathering, which was the first legal festival in the UK. That's when Margaret Thatcher closed down all the raves. It's when you go to the petrol stations and you get on your bleeper would come they tell you where to go, where it all is at.
Underneath motorways and things like that. Did you ever attend any as market research?
No, I didn't actually. I didn't do any, but we had an idea that there was a lot of publicity at the time because it was all shut down because what they could, if you got in on the site, it took 2 weeks then to get rid of you. Then it would be the law because you had to go to a proper court procedure. But Margaret Thatcher changed the law that you can get rid of you right away and confiscate the equipment. So that killed it right away. So we went back to the councils and we applied for a license in a place called Otmore Park in Oxford to do the first tribal gathering. That would have been a place called Otmore Park, and that was fantastic. We got the license. We did 40,000. I can't remember the bill at the moment, but it was great. It went all night, but of course the neighbours didn't realise what they were getting into, so we never went back there. So we went to another site, a place called Luton Hoot, a big house in Luton on the motorway, a big old stately home, and that lasted for 3 or 4 years, and don't know why that closed. I think the house was sold, and then we started Homelands, which was in Winchester Bowl, and Homelands lasted for sort of 5 years. Don't know what happened to that. I don't know what year I'm up to now, but
I think you're around about 99. If it coincided with the Irish edition, the first one was in 1999. I'm going to come back to that a little bit later, but first I want to ask you, you're talking like the mid-90s, Britpop had exploded, Liam Noel, Damon Albarn, they were all the biggest names in music. It's quite a hedonistic time, but you didn't live the hedonistic lifestyle to go along with it that many would assume would be befitting of a massive festival promoter.
No, I was never the popular one in the business. I think agents hated me because when I started it was quite difficult to get through to. I didn't understand the business as that there was a certain sort of etiquette that you didn't ever approach the manager or the actual band, but I just felt that it was a little bit of cronyism, and it was very small at the time, and there was certain promoters that would be there and they would all get the backs, and I couldn't break in. But I just kept on hassling at it, and in fairness, the first person that actually gave me would be Bob Dylan, Jeff Kramer, because I used to call him. I got his number. I used to call him when he was driving from different state to state in America, and he had plenty of time to talk to somebody. So
how did you manage to get the number?
I got the number from somebody who did some work for him, a stage manager.
I love the hustle.
And he said, "Who are you?" And he said, "Well, you call me every night." I said, "Yeah, because I'm up in Europe." And I said, "What are you doing?" And he said, "Oh, I'm driving to whoever place." And then he'd say, I said, "Well, your agent won't talk to me, and I've actually got the money, I've got the venue, and I want to put on Bob Dylan." And he kept on hearing this. I wouldn't generally hassle him. I would talk to him, and he wouldn't mind talking about what are you doing. I said, "Well, we've had all these bands. We've had all these bands in the Mean Fiddler and stuff." And eventually, he's sent a fax to Barry Dickens from ITV, which is one of the biggest agents, and a nice man, said, "Barry, why don't you deal with this bloke? He seems to never leave me alone. He has the money, so why don't you do him?" So Barry rang me for the first time ever. Really, I couldn't get him. I got him a few times, but he said, "Look, I don't like you, but," he said, "I've been told to deal with you." So we met up, and that was my first Bob Dylan. And he then gave me a lot of stuff because he had Neil Young, and he had other bands like Simon, Peter Gabriel, sorry. And we became friends. And then we chatted one day, and we realised why we didn't get on, because we had the same birthday. So, two Tauruses. And we've been friends ever since. I did fall out of him once when at the Madness, going back to the Madness concerts we did. We brought Madness back and put him on Finsbury Park for 2 shows, I think it was originally.
Finsbury Park holds a special place in your heart. I want to just roll back the clock a little bit. The Fleadh, obviously coming from Irish origin, you would have spotted there was a huge gap in the market there, and a London Irish crowd who were hungry for music. Did you find it was much of a challenge in those days to put something like that on? Were you worried that it might not have gotten the reception that you hoped it would have?
Well, I had no doubt after doing Reading, because I did it the year after Reading. I thought, okay, I can do a festival now. I know what I'm doing. And but I think at that time it was although it wasn't huge, but it was hostile. It was like troubled times, and the police were a pain because they thought there was going to be a war there. They put lots of people around the place, like hiding. They put cameras in the trees. It was a bit hostile, So, of course, I found the gap. I think the gap I found was that there was music there. You'd get people like acts coming to the Albert Hall and stuff, but you get no contemporary music acts that Irish. But you'd get the show bands, and there wasn't any. There wasn't many acts that were representative of the younger Irish, and so that's what the idea of the Fleadh was. I forget the lineup on the first year, but we put it together, and it was fantastic. But it was different days then. There was no pre-selling. It was pre-selling, yeah, we were telephone calls. But we had and licensing laws only went to 3. So Sunday, it was on a Sunday, and 3 o'clock, the pubs were full till 3 o'clock in local Finsbury Park. And then I remember, we were totally shocked. We did something like 18,000 walk up. And I just had everybody I could find that worked with the Mean Fiddler. Everybody taking money on the door, just letting people in. It was like, and we had something, I don't know, we only had about 4,000 or something in, which were pre-sales. And then all of a sudden the place, and it was fantastic, really. I mean, I had my cashier, we were just bucketfuls of cash, of fivers and whatever. So that was good. That was the first year. That was 90. So then we got it right, We got it 91, which was good. 92. We did it right up to, then I did. We did a lot in Finsbury Park, really. That was the Fleadh. But
something else you did in Finsbury Park in 96 was the first of the Sex Pistols comebacks. Yes, yeah. That was quite a major coup, because I imagine every promoter in the UK wanted that gig and that potential profit. How did you manage to swing such a massive reunion gig? Well,
I had to prove that I could do it now. So, and also I always had the temptation. I could always push out more than most people, promoters, in a sense, because I always have my own saying. It was like I keep one iron till and one on the talent. So the till being the bar till. So I could estimate if we get 30,000 people into Finsbury Park, which we did. We got 33,000 people for the Sex Pistols, because the Sex Pistols was difficult because they never really pulled that many people. They were famous, but they weren't around for that long, really. So they didn't. So anyway, yeah. So I could always outbid, and this is what I was saying to Jeff Kramer. I said, I can give Bob Dylan more money than you can get from your promoter, because most promoters don't have bars. They give the bars to somebody else. But my business was built on bars to begin with, in the Mean Fiddler. So we knew what bars were all about and what you can take from bars.
You mentioned previously about doing the gig from Madstock. There's a great story about an employee being mugged of
You've done your research here.
I have.
I thought you might miss that one.
No, I love this story.
Well, we were all ready to go. Basically, we'd sold out Madness. It was a huge success. We'd done 2 shows. We'd only, I met Carl and Suggs in the pub with Neil O'Brien, which was one of my bookers with me. And we went to a pub in Camden and we said, we can do you. We can actually, I think, you've done over 600,000 copies of Utter Madness, I think, with the album. Maybe it was, but I think that was the album that's what we were pitching to him. Saying, I think we can do one Finsbury Park. And I remember them saying, well, how much can you give us? I said, well, I'll give you 100 grand and we can do a percentage. So they agreed to do it. And then I put it on sale and they got nervous then because it got huge. Capital Radio was then sponsoring it. And it sold out in minutes, the first one. And so we did the second one. And it also sold out. And we had Morrissey supporting.
So Morrissey was well into his solo career at this stage. The Smiths were long gone, pretty much.
Yeah, but Morrissey was like
very popular.
I love Morrissey. He's like, I'll tell you a Hop Farm story on Morrissey. Okay. If you hope he's not listening, which it is.
We'll come back to Hop Farm in a while, but definitely I want to hear about that.
But Morrissey supporting, and the Mean Fiddler was where we all worked from. We had all the staff were in there. So Eileen, which was my main financial person, and she was a manager she was looking after the money. So we had to get a certain amount of cash out of the bank to actually to do the bars, which was float for the bars and float for the box office, which was 60 grand. And we had bankers' drafts. The Madness sold out, so instead of getting 100 to 100,000, they got 410,000 really in the end. They did 33,000 a day.
Wow.
So their share of the whole thing was 410,000. So we had all that ready. And I went home early. When I say early, 11 o'clock from the Mean Fiddler, to get up in the morning, to be there at 7. And Eileen, in her lack of wisdom, she decided that I'll take the change home with me and I'll take the banker's draft home with me, so I won't have to come into the Mean Fiddler in the morning and go straight from home. So anyway, she got mugged at the door. I was asleep in bed. It was about 12 o'clock. And I heard this woman screaming, and I couldn't. So Eileen screamed, but she'd screamed for about, it seemed like an hour, but for 30 seconds. I said, put the phone down, call me back. So she called me back and said, I've been mugged. They've got my money and they got everything in the bag, which was probably tickets and stuff as well. So there's one young bloke who mugged Eileen, and police had no idea who it was. Whatever, we never got any result on it. Eileen was totally devastated. I mean, she's never got over it really. Still, she cries today when I speak about it. So we had to deal with that then. So I went into the Madness then, they're North London, but I thought, no, we've been had here, this is it's
a setup.
This is a sting here. So I said to him, no, there's no way. I said, look, he said, well, we're not going on. I said, well, I can't force you, but, let's try if we can work something out. Then the agent came in at 10 in the morning, and that was Barry Dickens. They got an agent because the thing got so successful, then they got an agent and manager. A bloke called Steve Finer was a very nice guy. Anyway, we just... they weren't going to go on, so I said, okay, I will give you 200 grand, I think it was. I'll give you 200 grand. I'll try and get 200 grand out of all the cash flow and stuff we have in the venues, and I'll give you that, and then I will, by the second show, I'll get the money for you. But I didn't get the money by the second show because I had to wait until the banks opened I cancelled the bankers' drafts. Anyway, for that, they decided they would go on. So I went around to every pub that I knew in Kilburn and changed checks. And I changed checks and asked them not to cash them until Monday or Tuesday. So the Crown in Cricklewood, the National in Kilburn gave me sort of like 50 grand and stuff. But most of the people knew me, so it's fine. So we raised about 200 grand and gave it to them. That was the first day because I decided to go on. So the second day then we did more or less the same really. But the second day we had all the money then, nearly all the money for them, in cash, 2 big black bags.
Bin bags, I believe.
Bags, yeah. And it took a long time. They wouldn't trust anybody, so they called Securico. Nobody's going to touch the bags. This was late in the night. It was raining. Everybody had gone home. We were all both sitting in the porta cabin waiting for Securico to come. I think they came about 12:30 or something, or maybe 1 o'clock. They came straight into the middle of the field, and the secure van sunk into the mud. So it was pretty muddy then. So then they had to call out for another one. And so eventually, at 3 a.m, they took the money, and then I dealt with the situation on Monday, which was difficult because the bank refused to actually to give me the value of the actual, to renew the value of the banker's trust, because he said it's like cash. Anybody can walk into a bank, in a foreign bank, and open the name. That's what's on there. And they can cash those. So we had a huge battle with Barclays. And then I got some PR against the bank, and I think they caved in the end. At this time, we were like a week into it, and everybody was screaming for the money. So I eventually got the money, got the bank. The bank gave in. These were our bank, which we'd be with for a while. So I never found who did it, and it was just an experience. And I think Eileen still is upset about it.
Tell me about your relationship with the Eavis family in Glastonbury. I heard a story once secondhand that it was you who told Michael Eavis that fences were the future for Glastonbury, because his kind of free entry and, kind of everyone's invited type thing just wasn't working at the time. Is that true?
No, it's not. Well, it's not lies. It's just it's just another interpreted in a different way. What happened was Michael. I would think I was the last call. I think Live Nation at the time couldn't handle it, so Michael needed somebody. He was closed down by the police, and they said, Michael, we're not going to issue a license, the council or the police, because the place is overcrowded, it's dangerous. It got into situations where it wasn't good being there. It just got out of hand. So he came to us, and it took a long time for us to agree. He used to come down to Paddington with his wife. I'd meet him in Paddington Station. We'd sit in the hotel and we'd try and get a deal together. It took a few weeks, and we finally got a deal together where we took it over. The running of all the Melvin, which was our main man, Melvin was very good at it. We come up with a plan that we need to get the place properly secured. So I did get credit for the fences, but I did a lot more than the fences.
Of course.
So the company did, but we put in fences which were 1 metre down and 3 metres up. So if you had to burrow in, the problem was people were burrowing in underneath. So because the festival venue was like, I think we had fences 8 miles. There was 8 miles of fences around the site, and at the cost of, I think the fence cost £1 million. So once that was secure, and we had that secure, and I'd done the deal with Michael, and he didn't like me there because I was just I was a new intrusion really, and he was, and I did feel sorry for him, and but in the end of the day, I think the festival maybe would survive in another. Somebody else might have taken it, but it wouldn't have happened that year or the next year. So me and Michael get on well now, but he didn't never really like me being around, because it's just you're going into somebody's very, very private sort of festival, which is his. Michael is a big star there. He still is a big star there. And so we sold it in 2006, I think. But it worked well. We got rid of 95% of the problems, and we ran it well. But I always got benefit from putting our fences up. There was a lot of graffiti on the fences, like not saying nice things about me, which was quite nice, really.
Do you think Michael wrote some of that himself? I
don't think so. Me and Michael get on well now. If you admitted that I think if Glastonbury had lapsed, or if it didn't do anything for 3 or 4 years because of problems with the police, I think it'd be very hard to get it back. But we didn't. We went straight in and we got it back, and we got it up for the following year. It was just one of these things which very big, and if you haven't got the infrastructure and the actual people behind it, then Melvin had a very good head, lateral thinking. He was a very good man at putting sites together. He often said he should have been employed by the government in the army or something. He'd have sold out a lot of wars. He was very good at doing stuff, and it always happened.
By now, we're up to the late 90s, and you've promoted gigs by some of your heroes across all your venues and festivals. You mentioned Johnny Cash earlier, Roy Orbison. Have you ever found the old adage to never meet your heroes in any way true? Or have you always found them kind of genial enough?
I guess I didn't have too many heroes in the way of, I was never fazed by anybody. I would never patronise people and say, oh my God, you were great. I've never told Van. And Van is the person that played more, Van Morrison, is a person that's played more than anybody else.
He's your lucky charm. I've heard mentioned that he opens many of your venues.
He'd never not opened a venue.
I believe you didn't actually even get to share a conversation with Johnny Cash. There was some incident with his wife or his wife's sister.
Well, his wife's sister, I think her name is Mabel. Is it Mabel? Mabel Cardner. I don't know, but his wife's sister decided that she would get off stage. I mean, I think Johnny might have been drinking. He'd come from Wembley, from the Country Music Festival in Wembley. That's how I got him, and he did a show after. It was great. He was great, but there was an argument on stage, and she stormed off, and she ran out the alleyway down the high street, and that's not a good place to be on your own in those days. So I sent the doorman after her to get her back, and he took her back to the hotel in Kensington. And I don't know what the row was about, but she didn't come back into the venue. But that was a great night. That was a great night. So
because of this row, basically Johnny just hightailed it straight after. Was that the case?
Yeah, he left straight after. He didn't. The family, I don't know what was going on. There wasn't privilege to it, but we were just trying to. I didn't want anything to happen to anyone, so I guess it would be. I was happy that he was left the building. He had played. He was very good, and that was a night to remember, really.
You had a strong relationship with the late John Reynolds, even putting together Ireland's first dance music festival, which we previously talked about, Homelands. How did that come about? I assume, was it off the back of the UK one? And what are your memories of John?
Well, it's sad actually coming back. And when I came back into to Dublin the other day, I always ring John up, and we always have a coffee in the Gresham and talk about the people we loved and hated and things going on and stuff. It's really hard to say that he's gone, to see that he's gone. But my relationship with John was early days, when the Mean Fiddler in Dublin opened. Before that, John was a fan of the Mean Fiddlers. He liked what we did, and then I got Mean Fiddler. He helped me a lot to get in the Mean Fiddler in Dublin. We're just friends, he was like, John was way ahead of his time, and the pod was such a place to go to when, it's a long time ago now, but it was great. That was like, you hardly had nothing in London like that.
Ireland's first super club almost, to an extent.
I mean, it was definitely Ireland's super club. That was fantastic. Going there and spending, I loved my time in the pod. It was fantastic.
As well as John, what were your relationships like with your other promotional peers of your generation, the likes of Dennis, Desmond and Jim Aiken? Was it a kind of a friendly competition, or was it very dog eat dog back in the day?
No, Jim Aiken was a different class. Jim was a great bloke. Me and Jim never had any clashes. Me and Dennis had many clashes.
Was the Fleadh more in competition with Fleadh with the trip to tip at one stage, I think, is that?
No, it worked the other way around as far as I'm concerned. I thought about the actual Fleadh first. I mean, Dennis did the Fleadh in, not because of Tramore, he did the Fleadh because he knew that I was doing this thing in Finsbury Park. So the Fleadh was a copy of Finsbury Park, in my opinion. But then Dennis might say, no, Vince copied me, but, Dennis is all right, I don't have any problem with him. He's a nice man.
I'm sure there were quite a few furious phone calls over the years.
Yes, there was things I wouldn't ever like to talk about, but
We'll leave it at that then. Keeping it close to home, we spoke about the pod being one of Ireland's first super clubs. South was another.
Oh yes, I mean
Were you disappointed that it had such a short shelf life?
It was, because it's just like we're just running too fast to catch up with ourselves. I think if you know what that means.
It was a hell of a venue. Like, I DJ'd in it a number of times myself. It
was like everything we did, I think we did good. We did perfection. We would use the right people. The venue was fantastic. And going seeing Paul Weller there that night, and the place rocking. And it saddens me to see that it's like a bit of, we lost a fortune at that place. But,
It was very hacienda-like inside, yes, from what I've seen of pictures of the hacienda. Was that what it was designed upon?
Yes, it was a Sean Clarkson designed it. He's a friend of mine. He designed most of the places, the latter places. Yeah, perfect venue, really. Perfection doesn't always work.
No, it doesn't, sadly. Have you any thoughts on why maybe it didn't do as well as hoped? Do you think because of its placement of where it was in the country?
No, I think it's just lack of, there's lots of competition. It's very hard to get the acts in, because there was very few promoters in Ireland, and they controlled everything, and that was the way it was. It was difficult, and I never really did for other promoters. There was an attitude that other people shouldn't exist in the business we're in, so you just make it monopolize the whole thing, and nobody else exists. So, and the agents depend on one person. So I never understood that, to be honest. I mean, I was always happy to compete because I believed in ourselves. I believed in myself, and the company believed. My company believed in what we could do. We did prove to do it, but there's an element in, not just in this country, but in any country really, the way they want to sort of stifle the competition. And it's a sad thing, and it's making the business smaller in a way, because you get exclusives now everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
Exclusive, UK exclusive. We're doing a UK exclusive, but exclusive where it's like UK, the whole of it, down from John O'Groats up to the furthest place up in Scotland. So I don't know. It's a sad thing. I mean, when you put your head above the parapet now, you actually you're picked up, bought out, or shot or something. You don't exist after that, because they can throw money at stuff, but it's creativity is I'm doing something in a couple of weeks' time called creativity versus capitalism, of the kind of like not so much putting on stuff just for the money, and rather than putting on something creative like. And the girl who's leading the debate is the girl who put together with John, a girl called Deborah Armstrong. She's a fantastic creative person. So there's this kind of conference thing in London soon, just discussing it between
like-minded folk.
Yeah, I mean, this is for and against. I mean, you shouldn't. I mean, some people are happy to put on an act and put it on in a tent or someplace, and then just be happy with it. But the Mean Fiddler was never like that. We never let it. We had to go further and think about, we want to do it this way.
You wanted it to be about the experience more so than just profit.
Yes. Yeah, I mean, I never, well, like again, it sounds corny, but I never thought about the money. It was never my name. I was just passing through.
You became involved in Benicassim in 2005. Was the festival already in operation before you took the reins?
It was. It was a small fest. I'd been to it a few times. I think Melvin had been to it as well. Because Melvin was my festival director. So, but by that time, I'd finished with Melvin. So I'd done a deal with Live Nation, and they bought everything. And I had to sign a non-compete for 3 years. But I think after realising I got quite a bit of money, walked out of the Mean Fiddler. I had to leave everything. I couldn't even take when you're in a public company, you just walk out. You take the keys from you and you leave. And that was interesting in the sense that I was very sad. I just felt like I'd just retired or whatever. Like, I can't do this. So that's when I went to Spain, because I obviously wasn't breaking the actual rules by going to Spain, because even though in a way they did intimate to me that, well, yeah, but you got 55% Irish and British go to Benicassim. So, well, the Irish wasn't 55%, the Irish were probably 5%. But it was a huge UK festival. So I went there and I spoke to the people there. The two brothers had it, and I said, I want to buy it, and we done the deal, and I kept them in for 3 years. I didn't want to go in there because I think it would be a disaster if you went in there. I said, get rid of all the people that run it. So I kept everybody, and I worked with them, and it was good, really good. We had a good time, and then I think along came the recession. I'm sort of jumping ahead now, but we had a great time in Benicassim. What happened then? Yeah, I think Dennis bought into it. That was good for a while. We were making good money. We brought the capacity up from like 25,000 to something like 50,000, which was a great festival. It took fortunes and money and like beer and stuff. It was great, fantastic, because it was a place where it didn't exist, that they stopped. They used to go from like 5:30 in the evening to 7 in the morning, and the beach was right there, and it was crazy. It was fantastic. I remember, not now because bands are very busy now. So bands would never leave it. They would go in the backstage area. We had a pool which wouldn't recommend to get into it after like 10 o'clock in the evening because it's like filthy with beers and everything into it. So the people, I remember in the olden days, the Arctic Monkeys did Benicassim several times, but they used to always end up having a good party in the backstage guest area. But it doesn't happen anymore because the bands are out and they have so many festivals to do now. It's like they're gone. Half an hour in the dressing room and they're gone.
Did you find that there was any new challenges to putting on a festival in Spain compared to your time in the UK and Ireland? Was there anything that you didn't encounter over here that you would have there?
Well, there's a lot. There's a language. I never managed to... I had a whole staff of young Spanish and they could speak better English than myself. So I tried to get somebody to... I had a tutor that came to my place and teach me Spanish, but I was always like late nights and stuff, so I never answered the door to her. So my Spanish was like I could order wine and say thank you and
the important things basically.
And numbers. That was it. So I'm still at that stage.
Hop Farm was another one of your endeavours we mentioned earlier. It was a return to grassroots festivals devoid of large brand sponsorships. Was it tough as a result to find the money to pay huge fees to the likes of Prince because of the lack of sponsorship?
No, it wasn't. Everybody said that the sponsorship is misunderstood in the sense that you think if you get sponsors, the sponsors pay for everything. Sponsors is very little money compared with the cost of the festival. So, but there was an era there where you look at festivals, I'm naming a few, but where the sponsorship got crazy or the representation of music got crazy. You know, I remember there's one festival that was sponsored by Utterly Butterly, and it was like some sort of thing that wasn't butter, but it's supposed to be butter. And what has that got to do with it? You know, I mean, you could say drink has got something to do with it, but being sponsored by a brandy brand or whatever. But you know, there was no. So sponsorship didn't kill off the Hop Farm. What killed off the Hop Farm again is probably creativity, and I could have done it with half the amount of acts on there, which would have been half the budget. But we were just. And all the festivals we've ever done has been like, they've been great for the customer, but very sad for the bank. Not all of them, of course I'm just exaggerating, but you know, if you look at the Hop Farm, which was fantastic lineups, you know, from Lou Reed, Morrissey, the one with Patti Smith on the one bill, and the Kinks, great. Prince is £1 million. I really shouldn't have done it. I think, I don't regret it now, but from a business point of view, I shouldn't have done it because we had 6 weeks to sell it, and I was chasing him, and he was saying yes for about 18 months. But there was a problem with Dennis, because Dennis this is what I believe anyway, what they told me. I'm sure if Dennis hears this, he'll come back and say that wasn't the situation. But I believe that Dennis Prince didn't turn up to a gig in Dublin, and Dennis
Croke Park.
Was it? Mm-hmm. So Prince had claimed, and his manager claimed, that it was never confirmed, but it went on sale. Anyway, I don't know, either way. But so Prince wouldn't pay, so that way he couldn't actually do anything in Europe, because then the injunction would have taken the money. And that went down, that was a long time before he actually did the Hop Farm. But I was the only one that was pursuing him all the time. So I thought I'd keep at it, because if something does happen, because he'll want to come back, and in the scheme of things, it wasn't a lot of money. But I don't know how much he owed Dennis, but they settled in the end. And that was 6 weeks before the event.
Was your pursuit of Prince down to being a fan, or because you saw the potential profit?
It's just a knowledge of how. I mean, I couldn't say that I was a big fan of Prince. I wouldn't have many albums or much music of Prince. But he was just that iconic figure, and like it's a bit like I wouldn't know everything about all the artists, but you know, I thought, you know, having Prince would be great. I can't really say I was a big fan of Prince's. I was a fan of getting my own way.
Did you bear witness to any of his eccentricity, or did you kind of tend to shy away and leave others?
Quite a bit, actually. I mean, John helped, God rest John's soul. John helped me a lot on that night. I mean, because John put together, Prince had a big bust up with all his technical people after the event. And so he went to Malahide Castle with with no tech. So I think it was Codaline's crew that actually, I'm sure it's Codaline that actually John got everybody from Codaline, all the techs, all the guitar techs and everything. Prince was a master of, like, he spent something like 2 hours. I remember hanging around outside his dressing room. He spent 2 hours going through everything. Everything was filmed, so he'd gone through everything. And when he came out, he sacked his manager, the day manager for that tour. He sacked the guitar techs, and this was my year. This was a perfect show. I've never seen so many people cry. People were literally crying because he was so good. He was rolling around on the piano, on the grand piano when coming out, and he opened up pretending it was a sound check. You know, he spent like half an hour, just a second checking. But it was a very memorable night. But he actually went away, and he wasn't happy. I mean, he did say, he was coming off the stage, and I said to him, thank you. And he looked around, he went to the bottom of the stage, he looked up and he said, no, thank you. And that's the last, I didn't speak to him then after that. I just waited until he left. And that was 2 hours after, and then everybody left. But I had the opportunity of going back with the band, because they stayed in the same hotel as what I did. So I got a lift back to the hotel with the band, which was an all female band. And that was interesting, listening to their sort of chats, which I won't mention what they were, but, you know, it was an interesting being stuck in there with I don't know, about 5-6 women, which are great musicians.
What are some of the strangest demands you've dealt with from acts over the years?
Not really strange. No, I can't really. I can't remember any real strange. I mean, I remember. I think it was the Chili Peppers. I'm sure it was the Chili Peppers that they wanted a full-size gym backstage at Reading, and they did get it and it cost them, like, to build it, probably plus 20 grand in those days, and they never used it. Never went inside it. There was a strange happening. I wouldn't say it was a ride out. I remember one artist came in on a balloon or something. He was dropped and he wanted to land backstage, but they got it wrong, so he landed in the campsite. That was funny. I forget, it was an old rock band, but so then go and get a buggy to pick him up and take him from. So the whole spectacular thing of looking up to see him coming in, it didn't work. Any
experiences with David Bowie? He played for you at the Phoenix, I believe, did he?
He did, yeah. No, I had no experiences really, apart from the fact that he was great. I didn't. There was no, but it was just. Yeah, I don't really. I mean, I think I don't hang around acts and patronise people. I think this has helped my existence with artists. Because what I don't do is go around and pretend you're their friend, because, you know, they're not your friend. You're doing a business deal. If you were your friend, they would invite you out. I mean, I do have friends. I mean, I would say Christy Moore was a friend, but it's gone back over the years. But very few friends and artists. We do business.
Whilst you may not spend a lot of time with them personally, are there any acts that you've booked regularly that you will always make it a priority to get down and see them play if you're putting on a show with them, regardless of any kind of backstage madness that's going on?
I always see the acts play as much as I can, actually. You know, it doesn't matter whether it's a small act or a little act. I mean, I think that's where you get the buzz. You know, when in Nell, I got a place called Nell's, which is named after Nell, my daughter, in West Kensington, and it's 350 capacity. It's where Van plays. Van has played there 25 times.
Wow.
300. He did say in an interview on BBC that he does it because he loves it, but he said, it's a shame Vince can't afford me. So I think what I pay Van wouldn't even pay for his band to do, but he wants to do it because he's got a good saying, so that I don't feel it. If he feels it in the place, he loves it. You know, if he goes to a big place, generally, he's looking into the lights, and it doesn't matter if there's 15,000 people there. He doesn't know. He's like it's like playing through a screen, and he loves it. He does love it. I mean, he loves the feedback of people,
the intimacy of it.
Yeah. He's fantastic. Really, he's got. A friend of mine runs. I just a side story, but a friend of mine runs a casino. And there was this very rich Malaysian man who lost a lot of money. And he said, Vince, I want to treat this bloke because he's a big Van fan and he's just dropped a lot of money in the casino. And I knew the the bloke who ran the casino, and he said to me, "Do you think you could facilitate him and get him a table and get him the best of everything, and we'll cover the bill?" So I got him everything. He got the best. He had the best of champagne. He started giving out to the customers, to all the other people, the punters there, which they didn't mind. Anyway, he got drunk quite quick, and he got up and he shouted. He said, "I love you, Van. I love you, Van." And then Van looked over towards him, like with his glasses on, and he looked at the band. He started off, "Have I told you lately I love you?" Now I don't know whether it's coincidence or not, but he actually did that song, and this Malaysian man thought that it was for him, which made his night. And then I got a phone call from them to say, like, "We want to do Van for Mr. What's his name's party on the beach in Malaysia," and he'll fly Van over. And so anyway, so he said to me he would pay £3 million. I said, "This is great for me, because I can get paid out of this now, because I become an agent." So anyway, I went to Van with the idea. That's what I like about Van. He said no. So anybody who can turn down that, it wasn't so much, it was the fact that he doesn't feel that, he wouldn't do that. And that's great. That's great admiration for Van, in the sense that he wouldn't do it. It's not about the money.
Speaking of rich businessmen and money, I believe you sold some property based on a coin toss once.
Well, I went through a crazy period when I had money. I fell out with my very good friend now, Alison, and the mother of my children. We were together for 16 years, and it was a bad old period, really. So I bought this penthouse in Paddington. It's massive. It was 6,000 square feet, and a roof garden was 6,000 square feet. I don't know what the actual flat was, but I remember the kids used to play football along the corridor from end to end. But it's probably one of the most unhappiest times I had. I mean, I was in there playing the game of, like, I had this car called GT40, which was like, I don't know, I love American cars. I still got an old Buick. I had a GT40, and I've always had American cars.
I believe you had a Cadillac and also a Lincoln at one point.
I've still got the Lincoln. The Lincoln I bought when I met Alison. We were in a garage once, and it was out near the American Air Force bases, and we just bought it from the garage there. But I still got it. That's the only car I've got. I don't drive anymore, really. We just go by Uber or Tube.
But the coin toss?
The coin toss came when I sold the penthouse. I bought it for 1.8 million, and I sold it for a lot more. And the bloke said to me, "Why didn't you toss for it?" I said, I kept asking if you could toss. We could toss for I think it was 3 million. I think I sold it for 3 million. And I said, "No, I'm happy with what I got. It's fine." So I took him out at a place called the Pogues Club, which is a very nice. That was after the Mean Fiddler. It was a very nice place in Piccadilly. I'd always had this idea that have a room which was like 60s type, done like a sort of. I don't know if you've seen a film, The Goodfellas.
Of course.
So when the boss walks into the room, and like that room it looks a bit dingy, but this wasn't dingy. This was a supper club. I took him down there for dinner with his security man and his bank manager. He was a very rich man. And we were drinking champagne, and he said to me, "You never wanted to toss a coin." And I said, "Well, because I said I'm happy. I don't need to." In the end, we were drinking away. So I said, "Fine, okay." We cleared the table. I said, "I'll toss you. It's got to fall on the table." And I did. He lost, so he just a moment silent. He said, "Double or quits." I said, "No way." So I said, "I'll tell you what I do. We changed the champagne." We were drinking Moe, so we started drinking Dom Perignon. And then he paid.
And you accepted. I believe the story, when I read it, was that you were selling for 3.3.
Was it?
And he said that, I think it was for the 0.3. So if the coin landed in his favour, he would get it for 3 million. And if it landed in your favour, you would get 3.6.
Yeah,
so
that could be true as well, actually. I mean, I actually honestly can't remember, but it could be 3.3. I know I sold it for double the money that I paid for it, and I had it for 2 years.
What a great investment! Wow.
It wasn't planned investment. It was just fortunate, really, because the area came up. Now he didn't lose it because the flat he sold it for like 8 million.
Wow.
So it's like, the next person will probably buy it for 10.
Speaking of homes, what does Vince Power listen to at home? Do you listen to music much nowadays?
Yeah, all the time. I listen to everything. I'm into sort of New Orleans, sort of French Cajun stuff at the moment, like obscure acts, really.
Was there ever a massive temptation to sit back and retire after your massive sale to Clear Channel? £38 million sterling is a lot of money, Vince. What actually prompted you to sell up?
The situation I was in, really. I get to a situation where my life was then so busy, and we were a public company, and public company, you've got a lot of responsibilities, and you, in theory, in reality, you're dealing with shareholders' money, and it wasn't as exciting because we had a structure, we had financial controllers, and which is a good idea, I think, but it was just I spent too much time around the table talking in boardrooms. I mean, and I wasn't that kind of person. I was more hands-on and out there and doing stuff. So, and also my relationship was breaking up, and I needed to move. So I would say it was a bit of both, and a bit of like, I've gone as far as I can now with this, and at the moment I don't have much places, but I'm really happy. I'm as happy now as what I was when I had 25 places, 27 places.
And was there no temptation at the time at all to call it a day and just sit back and take all that money and go retire to somewhere sunny? Or would that have been a death sentence for you, do you think?
It would be most of a death sentence. That would be horrendous. I don't know. I can't think of why I would want to do that. I've had so much fun and satisfaction. And I think out there's somebody that appreciates it. When I get to the gates of whatever, I will tell them what I've done, and they might let me in.
We spoke earlier about monopolies in the music business. Do you feel it's almost become too much of a monopoly now? The Clear Channel morphed into Live Nation. They got together with Ticketmaster. Being an independent promoter nowadays at that level with them owning so much, it must be quite frustrating because the venues are sewn up, the ticketing end is sewn up, and you're talking about exclusives that they're being signed to, they're signing acts to. It must be quite tough, compared to how it was back when you first started out.
It's different, completely different. I mean, the music industry has changed so much. There's so much of the live business have changed phenomenally beyond recognition. There's so many acts out, and the world has got smaller. There's acts coming from all different countries. Like you can get Korean acts that will sell out the biggest place in London. I don't know. I mean, it's changed, but I think the worry about it is that it's a bit like having a sound system with no mid and no bass. You've only got the top, and the top would be the big operators. So you've got to have it all working well. The grassroots venues are very hard to keep alive. Grassroots, like 200, 300 places, where it starts, where all the acts used to start. And all those venues, they hardly exist in London now. They come and go because it's just too expensive and it doesn't work. And it's not, I don't think I don't know how to put it, the playing field is not level with it. I think you need to have those acts, and the big promoters are not really interested in you get the sort of AEGs and Live Nations. I mean, they've got a business. For them, it's the business, and it's perfectly okay what they do. But I would be worried about the roots of the business, which is neglected, and small promoters find it difficult. It's a huge in the economy, the British economy, which I spend most of my time in. But it's a huge business there, that generation of money, but very little goes to the beginning of it, the whole thing. And yeah, it's definitely I think it's in trouble that way, because if the person who goes to finish his college and they haven't got anywhere to play with their mates and their friends, then they might just give up and get a proper job.
And who wants to do that?
Yeah, I know.
Tell me about this return to your roots, the Feis in Liverpool, in true Vince Power style, a very Irish-orientated line-up, and also a gap in the market.
Yeah, well, it's always, I mean, I realised since the first one, 1990, which was the Fleadh, I can't use the Fleadh anymore because that's now belonged to Live Nation. They claim. I don't know if you can actually own the word Fleadh, but I don't want to argue about it. So, anyway.
Luckily, we're Irish and we have quite a few words for a good party.
Yeah, so we call this one Feis. I was in Boston last week looking at a Feis site, and they found it very difficult to pronounce Feis.
Really, in Boston?
Yeah, but it's American Boston. So
yeah. It's July 6th this year in Liverpool. Line-up packed.
Yeah, it's great. It's great, really. I mean, it's something. I haven't done a festival since the Hop Farm, what I call a festival. So I just wanted to see that I could do it again, and it worked so well. Really, we booked too well, and we got certain things wrong, and we put our hands up and said, "Look, this won't happen again." But you can't run out of beer on an Irish festival.
Oh my God!
So we didn't run out until the latter hours of the night, but that's almost worse. You're better off running out earlier when people are sober. But anyway, it was a huge mistake. I think we didn't get the bars right, but it was a new site, a difficult site, but the question you asked was, why do you do it? It's like, it's great, really. It's great to see the talent, and we had 30 something acts on, and we did the finale, which that was an idea when it was Shane's birthday party in Dublin, and he did a review, where everybody got up and did a song, and Shane did some songs, and he had a backing band. So I did that with the Feis, and I had Sharon Shannon was the actual band, and then people like we ran over time, so not everybody could go on. People like Damien Dempsey, and Paddy from the Chieftains, and Imelda May got up and did a song, and Shane did a couple of songs. It was fantastic. And so to sing along, really, singing the sort of Galway Girl, Dirty Old Town, and everybody, like at that time, everybody is like well oiled.
All the classics.
Yeah.
Not only have you had a hectic business life from a very young age, but also 8 kids across 30 years. You're a busy man. Did you find it hard over the years to balance work and family life?
Well, I think something has to give. I mean, I wouldn't say I was the perfect father that was home at the great. I mean, when in the early days, with Morris, Sharon, and Gail, which is my older kids. I mean, I got married. My mother and her mother, Teresa's mother, came to London and told us that we had to get married because I was going out with this very nice woman called Teresa Gill. And it was then she was having a baby. We got pregnant, and I got married at the age of just over 18. We had 1 kid, 2 kids, and 3 kids. I think by 21, and I was then working as furnisher, and I was busy. I mean, looking back on it, I could have been a better father, I think, but I was materialistic. I come from Ireland, where it was, and we had a very tough time as kids in Kilmacthomas. It wasn't all like going. We were poor. We were like we never wanted for food, but it was tough. So I didn't have the skills of like I thought materialistic things. Get your kids everything. Get your family everything, and that will be fine. But of course, but I've learned as I went along, and the next one would be perfect. No, but I mean, yes, I think I could have done better to begin with, but I was very young. I mean, my plea, Your Honour, is that I was young and I was like doing what I thought was right. But yes, I think emotions weren't big apart from my mother. Emotions weren't big in our house. You've only got your mother and father. My father wasn't an emotional man. He didn't want to talk about problems. So you could never, you have to, you are what you come from. And that was the first. But I think I've done better as I got older. And, all my family we're all close. It hasn't been easy, but for them, but I'm still there, and we're still there, and we all get on okay.
I've read that you've said you don't believe in inheritance and vow to spend your very last penny. How do the kids feel about that?
Well, I think they know that. I think, in fact, as in the press, I've probably told them 50 times. But I think I've peaked too early. I'm still alive, and the inheritance is gone. The so-called inheritance. So I think I've been more than right. But for the next fortune, I probably definitely won't leave anything. I don't think inherited money works really.
I believe some of your kids are very talented musicians as well.
Yeah, Bridget never likes to think about it because she's done it on her own. Bridget May Power is her name, and she lives in Galway. And but all the kids are. Nella's really talented as well. I mean, most of the kids are. They've got something in them, sure enough. But yeah, Bridget's done well. She's living in Galway, and she's married to a chap called Peter Broderick, which is a very good artist. He's American.
Did you ever pick up an instrument yourself at any stage?
I used to play the accordion when I was a kid, a little bit, but I mean, it would just drive it. When the cat leaves the place, then you know that you're a bad player.
Did any of the kids follow you into the family business of promoting?
No. But they have worked with me on and off with different things, maybe helping out festivals and stuff. And Alison, my ex-partner, she's works at festivals and stuff.
You were awarded an honorary CBE in 2006. Do accolades like that hold much weight with you? Do you display the medal anywhere, or is it just another one of those things in your life?
I've never displayed the medal. I couldn't. If you pay me £1 million, I couldn't tell you where it is now. But I did it because, and I got into a lot. There's a lot of talk about it when it happened, especially on Irish radio, whether or not an Irishman should be taking this. And I'm an Irishman. I'm nothing else but an Irishman. But I asked my children whether I should take it or not, and then they said yes, because they were born in London and England, and so I decided to take it. Initially, I wasn't going to take it. I was going to say thank you, but I don't need it. I didn't actually. I think, to be honest with you, there's more deserving people for it. What I did is I did it and enjoyed it. I wasn't really. I mean, I don't know what it was for. It might have been for my contribution to the music business, or I don't know. I did a lot during the Bosnian War. We did a lot of stuff, but that was done by other people as well, which would have been more deserving. I mean, Cradle, which is an Irish charity, I helped them during the Bosnian War, and we helped a lot of children from the war-torn areas, and that was very satisfying.
You did a lot of work in Thailand as well after the tsunami.
That's right. Yes, we did. We built some schools there and stuff. But that's pleasure really, to giving back like that, and to help people and to see people. We did a self-build project in. The war then was over, and we came to Albania because all the dictators had fallen and chaos was around. So there was a lot of people who was coming into the small towns with no homes and stuff, and they were just living in squats, and so we did a self-help project which worked very well, where we got the families together and the family most needy built the first house, and we funded that. It was great fun, and it was a great feeling to be able to give and help.
This might be a bit of a complicated question for you. It's kind of almost like asking you which one of your children are your favourite. But out of all the shows that you've promoted over the years, are there any standouts that you can really kind of recall as being some of the best, at least memory-wise for you, or on a personal level?
It's really a difficult question because, I could tell you 100, Eminem, I could say, like, I guess Prince coming out at the Hop Farm was special. I would never claim to be a huge Prince fan, but the whole thing, and it's not just about the music, it's about the night, the people, and they get it all right. Everything was right for that night. That was very special. I wouldn't say it was I couldn't say there was any one really special one. I mean, special for me is like watching other people being happy. I suppose, I couldn't claim to be a big fan of Prince's, but I could claim that was probably one of the special ones.
How did you find Eminem to work with?
He was great. I mean, we used to promote him in the early days. He did his first gig ever in the UK was at Subterranea. That was great. He was great. He's still great. I mean, he's a fantastic artist.
Speaking of Hop Farm, you told me earlier you had a Morrissey story for me.
Oh yeah, sorry. I was hoping you forgot that one.
Not at all.
Well, Morrissey said to me that he wouldn't play if there was any burger vans in the place.
Oh, of course, because he's a staunch vegetarian.
And and also, I said that I wouldn't put Morrissey on if he didn't. He had this horrendous. I mean, obviously, it put you off meat, and I'm not a meat eater myself. I eat fish, but anyway, I'm not judging anybody who eats or whatever meat or whatever they eat, what they want to. So, but anyway, he said to me that he wouldn't play if there was anything to do with meat on the site. Could I have a vegetarian festival? So I said to him, no, I can't have a vegetarian festival. But there was very little meat on the site. Like meat wagons and stuff like burgers and sausages and all those things, hot dogs and stuff. So the night before he came on, we switched everything to the back of the site and switched all the vegan and vegetarian up to the front. He comes out on the stage, he said, "This is the most civilized festival I've ever seen." There was no whiffs of anything. But he said to me that he wouldn't show this gruesome video which used to run. And I said, "Listen, there's people here that don't want that." And he said they said it wouldn't run, but of course he didn't. He just went on, and we had the screen was like 20 foot by 20 foot, and it was this video of it would certainly put you off meat. But, I didn't want to sort of there were people there that weren't vegetarians, of course.
How do you find Morrissey as a person? Because there's a great Noel Gallagher quote about Morrissey that he's as vicious sober as he is after a few drinks. Known for being quite a difficult artist at times as well. What was he like to work with?
Who said that?
Noel Gallagher said after partying with Morrissey with Russell Brand in Hollywood.
I think Noel might be the one to say it. Noel is a... I couldn't really say. I mean, he's always been really nice to me, and I've sat in his dressing room and talked to him, and he's always done stuff with me. He's always been really nice to me. I can't really say, apart from the fact when he agreed that he wasn't going to just run the video, but he did run it, and I didn't comment on it with him. He invited me into the dressing room after the show, which very rarely happens. I don't do it, but I went in and sat with him, and he was there talking about the show, and he loved it, and he thought it was great, and he would come back any time. I haven't got a festival or a reason to invite him back, but I mean, people appreciate being left alone, getting on with it. I don't patronise anybody. I do my side and they do their side. If they want to speak to me, then it's fine.
Any experiences with either of the aforementioned Gallagher brothers?
Well, I love the Gallagher brothers. I mean, I love Noel, and I know Noel and Liam well, and we did those big shows in Finsbury Park. We did four shows in the 90s, 4 shows at 40,000, and I think then went on then to New Neighbourhood after that. We did 4 shows at 40,000 in Finsbury Park. I used to do the Irish poster, the music side of the Irish Post Awards in the Irish Post in its old format, and I gave an Irish award to the brothers Noel and Liam, and he brought his mother to the awards, and we Noel did. Liam didn't come. She said, that was her proudest moment ever. Said firstly, she really enjoyed it, and the main thing to her was that she said it's the first time that they've been recognised as being Irish, and she loved that because he went on, on stage and he got the Irish Music Award, and that was nice.
And finally, to wrap it up, I'm going to ask: you've been labelled with a lot of monikers over the years in the press.
Have I?
And you have King of the Festivals, the Festival Baron, and even a Svengali Irish gangster.
Yes.
How would you yourself like to be remembered?
I don't want to be remembered at all because I'm not going anywhere.
That's a fantastic answer. How would you like yourself described to somebody who didn't know you?
Well, I just like, I'm like yourself. I mean, it's just like, we're just all the same, really. We've got different variations, but we walk, talk, eat, get upset. We're just the same.